Good morning, folks. Today I'll be teaching you a very important concept called service account. So the service account is basically an account which is used by an application or even a virtual machine, and it is not associated with an individual or a person. A fundamental example of a service account would be used is, let's say you have an instance and you want that instance to have access to certain other GCP resources, like let's say a cloud storage bucket. Then in that case, what you would do is you would associate a specific service account with that particular instance, and in that specific service account you would just give access to the cloud storage GCP service. So in that way the instance would be able to use that particular service account, and using that it would be able to access cloud storage. Uh, a few fundamental features of service account is that it is not associated with any password, but it is associated with a RSA key pair. So it has a private and a public key. And the other important aspect of a service account is that it can be used by other users. So feature number three I will explain to you later. And the fourth one is that a service account is basically, it's not a member, it's not associated with a user, and it's not there in a Google Workspace domain. However, it does have a email associated with it. There are multiple types of service accounts. The fundamental ones are the user managed ones and the default service accounts. So the user managed service accounts are the ones which are created by the individual or by a user. And the default service accounts are the ones which are created by Google itself. So for example, when you create a new project and if you try to create an instance, then Google by default creates a service account for that particular instance. However, keep in mind that if you are ever going to have a virtual machine put into production, you should try and avoid using default, because it could have multiple permissions that you don't want the virtual machine instance to have. So it's always important that if you are ever making anything in production, that you have your own user managed service accounts. The third kind of service account is basically something called as a Google managed service account. So these are service accounts that are used by Google itself to make it possible for multiple services to communicate with each other. It is advisable that an individual should never tamper or even delete these Google managed service accounts, because it could cause the whole project to work incorrectly. So I will show you the three kinds of service accounts, and I will create a user managed one. So I will go to my IAM. So if I connect to this project and if I open my IAM, then I can see a few service accounts that are already created. For example, if I look at this one, this is a default service account used for compute engine. So anytime a new virtual machine is created, then you can associate this particular default service account with that instance. If you look at this one, this is actually a Google managed service account. So it's advisable that you do not touch this or make any changes to this, because it might cause the whole project to work incorrectly. So let's create a user managed service account, and in that service account what I will do is I will just give access to view cloud storage, and then I will create a service, then I'll create an instance, and in that instance I will use that service account, and after that I will log into that instance and see whether that service account is functioning properly. So if I go back to my notepad, what I'll do is I'll create an instance and I will associate that instance with a user managed service account with only read permissions, and then I will just try to do a gsutil ls once I'm logged into that instance, and I'll check whether that works, and it should work. However, because I've just given a read only, if I try to remove something, then this particular utility should not work. So let's try. First thing, I will create a service account. So for that, go to IAM. I can go to service accounts and I'll create a new service account. I will call this as read only service. I will create this. Here I'll give role. So it should be cloud storage and it should be just storage object viewer, and that's it. So you can see that I have created a service account. So the next thing I will do is I'll create an instance. So I'll go to Compute Engine, VM instances. So I'll create an instance. Here you need to associate this particular instance with the new service account, with the new service account that I have created. So I will just click on this. So this is the important part where you have to decide which service account you want to choose. So I will choose the one that I just recently created. After that, I'll just click on create. So once I've created, I'll just log into this service account. Meanwhile, let me check if I've created any bucket. So if I go to cloud storage, so I have a file in this particular bucket. I will just get the URI for this. I'll just copy this. So now if I try to do a gs util ls on this particular bucket, it should work. Yeah. And if I try to do a gs util rm, it shouldn't. So it will give an exception. So this is this is how you know whether your service account has been properly associated with your particular instance. The second part of this topic would be the importance of this particular role, the service account user role. So if I go back to my console, I have, if I go back to my IAM, I have added another user to my project. The name of the project, the name of the user is developer, and I've given him not just viewer, but also I've given him compute admin access so that he's able to access the virtual machine. And the other thing I have done is I have created another instance. So if you go back to my compute engine, I have created another virtual machine, but I have not associated any service account with this particular machine. So I have two machines right now. The first machine is with no service account, and the other one is the one which is able to access cloud storage. So if I go back to the new user, so I am right now at developers at verylazycoders.com. So I can see all these three accounts. So let me try to log into the newly created one. So if I log into the no service account, you can see that I'm successfully able to log into this particular machine. However, if I try to log into the one which has a service account associated with it, let's see what happens. So you can see that there is a connection failed because it does not have the required permissions. So the permission it does not have currently is not related to the compute, but it's related to the service account. So you have to explicitly give the service account access to this particular user so that he's able to log into this instance. So let us do that. So if I go to my other account, I need to go to my IAM service accounts. So I have to go to the permissions tab and explicitly give access to that particular user. So this user currently just has a viewer role. So I need to edit this and I have to give the service account user role and I need to save this. So now I have given this particular user the rights to access this particular service account, the read-only service account. So if I go back to my other account and if I try to log in now, now you can see that it works because I have given the required service account permission. So that's it, folks. If you have any doubts or if you have any concerns, you can just send out a comment below. Thank you.